orders with business. At Newark-on-Trent he gave orders that a cutpurse preying upon his retinue should summarily be hanged. He had not properly been informed on the provisions of English common law. It is an indication that he was still in many important respects a foreigner. At Burley by Stamford he fell from his horse and broke his collarbone. Slowly he made his way to London. For 3 or 4 days he rested in Hertfordshire, at Robert Cecil's country home, Tybald's House, at which seat he took pleasure in creating many knights. He was so generous with titles that he was accused of improvidence. The reign of Elizabeth witnessed the creation of 878 knights. In the first 4 months of the king's rule, some 906 new men were awarded that honour. The Queen had knighted those whom she considered to be of genuine merit or importance. James merely considered knighthood to be a mark of status. He was said to have knighted a piece of beef with the words, "Arise, Sir Loin." On another occasion he did not catch the name of the recipient, and said, "Prithee, rise up, and call thyself Sir What Thou Wilt." Other titles could be purchased with cash. The diminution in the importance of honour marks one of the first changes to the old Tudor system. Those who were permitted into the king's presence may not have been entirely impressed. He was awkward and hesitant in manner. His legs were slightly bowed, and his gait erratic, perhaps the consequence of rickets acquired in childhood. One admittedly hostile witness, Sir Anthony Weldon, also described him as forever fiddling about his codpiece. He was a robust and fluent conversationalist, who rather liked to hear the sound of his own voice, but the effect upon his English audience was perhaps impaired by the fact that he retained a broad Scots accent. If he was eager to talk, he was also quick to laugh. He could be witty, but delivered his droll remarks in a grave and serious voice. His manners were not impeccable, and he was said to have slobbered over his food and drink. He paid little attention to his dress, but favoured thickly padded doublets that might impede an assassin's dagger. Ever since his childhood he had lived in fear of assault or murder. He was said to have a horror of naked steel. He had a restless, roving eye. He paid particular notice to those at court who were not known to him. On the 7th of May he rode towards London, but was greeted 4 miles outside the city by the Lord Mayor and innumerable citizens. He lodged at the Charter House for 4 nights, and then made his way to the Tower, where he remained for a few days. While staying in the royal apartments he began an excited tour of his capital, secretly in his coach and by water, as one contemporary put it. He was particularly struck by the sight of the crown jewels held at the palace in Whitehall. Here was the glittering and unmistakable evidence of his new-found wealth. Yet London was not a pleasure dome. Even as he approached it, the plague began its secret ministry in the streets and alleys. By the end of the summer it had claimed the lives of 30,000 citizens. A grand state entry had been planned for the 25th of July, the day of the coronation, but the fear of infected crowds curtailed the ceremony. There would be a crowning, but no state procession. Even in these early months of the reign, conspiracies began to mount against his throne. A group of gentlemen, among them Sir Walter Raleigh and Henry Brooke, Lord Cobham, were suspected of a scheme to depose James and to replace him with his cousin Arabella Stuart. Like most conspiracies, it was plagued by rumour, indecision, and premature disclosure. Raleigh was arrested and consigned to the Tower, where 2 weeks later he attempted suicide. At his subsequent trial he was denounced by the Attorney-General Sir Edward Coke as a spider of hell. Raleigh: "You speak indiscreetly, barbarously, and uncivilly." Coke: "I want words sufficient to express thy viperous treasons." Raleigh: "You want words indeed, for you have spoken the one thing 6 times." This was the end of what was called the main plot. A by-plot was also discovered, whereby the king was to be kidnapped by priests and forced to suspend the laws against Roman Catholics. It came to nothing, of course, except for the deaths of the principals engaged in it. The time had come for the formal